Welcome back to the seventh grade mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about fertility. When you look back in time, you see there are many names to different deities in different cultures for that one popular topic. For example, in Africa, there were many different types in all the different regions. The names of those deities in Africa were Dinka, or Ifa, or Igbo. In Egypt, Amun, Hathor, Heket, Isis, Min, Sobek, Tawaret, Tefnut in different cultures, not just African. For example, in the Indian culture, there is Bhavani, Buddhas, Prithvidi, Gayatri, Chandra. Also in Filipino culture, throw some Asian blend in there. In Tagalog, there is Kukurag, Ibabasag, who was the goddess of pregnant women. Still traveling around the globe, let's go over to Japan, Kichijoten, or Shinda, the fertility god of the Ainu people in Hokkaido, Japan. In Mesopotamia, there was Amasagnul. She was the Akkadian fertility goddess. In the indigenous Aboriginal culture, there is Angea, the goddess of fertility, and also Ungud, a snake god or goddess associated with rainbows and the fertility and erections of the tribe shaman. That meant, it was all good. Somebody was going to have a baby. Oh, let's not forget Hawaiian. In the Hawaiian culture, there was Lono, the deity associated with fertility, agriculture, and rainfall and music. And also Laka, the patron of the hula dance and the god of fertility. So as you can see, just about every culture all around the world has a deity or an attribute or an archetype related to fertility, because the fertility is continuation of your tribe, of your group, of your people. And for women, it's probably one of their most powerful attributes as a human being is the ability to create life. And there have been difficulties conceiving and having children for some people for a long time. And so they would go to the wise woman or the shaman in the tribe and talk to them and see what they could do so they could have a baby. So these concept that modern people are the only ones who have issues with fertility, no, it's as old as time, and it's a matter of genes. And so in this show, we're going to speak about how fertility is really important to a lot of people. So much so that it divides people into want to have kids, don't want to have kids, and the people who can't stop making fucking kids, the breeder. I mean, you got some people that are so fertile, like you could just sneeze on them and they'll have a baby. They have 7, 8 kids. They just crazy like cell division going on in that body. They're normally when you touch that person, they're warm. Their hands are warm or their flesh is warm. They're full of life. They're not anemic or they're not sickly. They're normally very strong and robust in appearance. So really like what I wanted to talk about is how fertility kind of ties into your self-worth, because for some women and men, if you can't have children, it really fucks with you. It really makes you look at your mortality.
Look, I think people don't forget people like having sex. Period. To whether you make a kid from the sex don't matter. Sex is still a big part of your self worth, self esteem, the ability to get sex, the ability to be desirable to others or be desirable to somebody that you desire. All those things are factored in. We speak of fertility because that means have a kid, but you got to remember it's still the act of sex. And there's so when you have sex, then hopefully something comes out of it. Now here's where it gets complicated. Some people are just having sex and they're just producing children, whether they want to or not, whether they're able to sustain them or not, whether they're able to support them or not. They don't give
Some
a damn.
motherfuckers
They
are
just
old
fucking.
school. They don't pull out.
Yeah, yeah. Pull out game weak. You know what I'm saying? And so it
Have you
it's
noticed? Have you
funny.
noticed real quick? Have you noticed in the movies you never see a motherfucker pull out?
Oh hell no. Hey, this goes back to if you pay attention. There's a funny joke by Richard Pryor and George Carlin both said a similar joke. And you ever notice when they talk about these MX missiles and shit, they always say, "Yes, we decided to pull out." Like it's a bad thing. Like they're talking about going to war, but they say, "Yeah, we pulled out." That's the only time you've ever heard pull out on the news. When they said we decided not to have a war, we pulled out. And it's so funny to us because Richard Pryor and George Carlin both were making fun of that years ago. Like, yeah, So you mean to say you didn't have sex with him? Oh, you didn't blow him up? Oh, fuck, you pulled out. And that's how we feel now. Like pull out is like almost like a negative thing. It's a joke now, but even in the past, even when you were like 13, 14 joking, like pull out, nah, man, I ain't pulling out shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's always had a weird connotation to it. Like, fuck it, you know. And so the whole thing is that there's so many of these different things are having. Anytime you talk about not having a kid, it's like a negative connotation attached to it.
Yeah,
Like, even though,
it's almost as if you're dysfunctional. Like there's
yeah,
something wrong
your
with you.
manhood or your manhood or your femininity was in question. Like, you can't have children. And even people who've had kids, and then all of a sudden something happens where they can't, they make a big deal about it. I was dating a chick one time, had 2 or 3 kids already, and she's like, you know, I gotta have a hysterectomy. I'm sick, da da da. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You don't understand what it's like. I'll never have a period again. I'm like, you enjoyed having periods? I didn't know this was a thing. Everything I read, women like don't like periods. You're saying that you're upset because you'll never have a period again.
Every woman
I
I
don't know how to.
know hates their period.
Yeah. So when she said this shit, I'm like, are you just saying this to complain about something? Are you fucking with me? Like, are you fucking with me? So, okay, cool. Let me know when you're ready. Hey, like, as an adult male, there's a couple things that there are certain words in the English language that you use all the time, and you don't understand the definition until you go through something. Like, I know it's hard for white folks to understand racism. They say they get it, but they don't get it. I remember was in a relationship for years. The wife had a miscarriage. Before that, the term miscarriage never bothered me. But now, like, you use a term all the time, miscarriage of justice, or you would use this term, and I'm like, yeah, after that, that word had a different meaning for me, and that's how important this fertility thing is. You know, like you said, your legacy, your DNA, your genes. Hell, many people theorize that white supremacy was built on fertility or the ability to pass on your genes. This is a big deal, but at the same time, you know, people don't know how they feel about it until they're in the situation. You know, everybody has a theory until you get in that situation. What would you do? Or I'm a good father. I'm a good mother. I'm, I remember I'm 45. I have no biological children. The thing that drives me crazy is that people try to act like because you don't have kids, you're a bad parent. That's bullshit. I'm a good parent because I don't have kids. I plan my shit out. um, a lot of motherfuckers didn't plan their kid. You know, their relationship is based on the kid. That's why you with this broad. That's why you with this nigga. He's garbage.
Yo,
But
so check
if you
this
got a
out.
kid,
Check this out, man. So I remember I was working on this job years ago, and there's this African brother from Somalia, and
mm,
we had a job where we would have long stretches of time where we were just sitting around shooting the shit, and we talk about women and this and that, and, our sexual exploits and all this shit. And he
men
asked me,
shit.
men shit, and he'd ask me like, "Do you have any kids?" No. And he's like, "Do you plan on having kids?" Yes. I said, "But I got to build the castle first before I put the
Yeah.
princess and
Yes.
the prince in there and the queen. Before I put all these people in there, I got to build that castle first because my father said some shit to me as a kid. He said, if you don't do better than me, we might as well be born at the same time. And that's always stuck with me. But I said that, and his response, man, he's like, man, just have some kids. Like, go eat an apple or go drink
Like
some
fuck
pop.
it.
Yeah,
Fuck it.
like, yeah, just go make some. Like, no. No, 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 no. I was like, that is a problem. That's the wrong type of thinking, dude. I said, if I lived in a country where, I had a farm and life was less stressful and the cost of living was much cheaper, man, I'd have a fucking army of kids. But that's not the life I live, and I don't live in that country. So therefore,
Yeah.
this hold on,
Preach.
this laissez-faire idea about just making babies. It isn't like this. It wasn't just this one guy from Africa who had this mentality. It's hood motherfuckers who had that mentality. It's what I'm saying,
Welfare motherfuckers.
welfare
Section
motherfuckers,
8 niggas.
white people in trailer parks who had that mentality. You know what I'm saying? If you look at what happens when people start to get more and more education, they reproduce less. So there's this trade off of what happens as an individual begins to follow their goals or pursue their goals and work hard toward creating a better living for themselves. They're less focused on reproduction. Whereas people who have less education and have less money reproduce a lot more freely. And you got to ask yourself, okay, are these people being careless? Because when you ask these people, did you plan to have this kid? Many of them say no. So, yeah, that sounds careless. But every child is a gift. I want to say that. I want that to be understood. Every child is a gift because you don't understand how precious a child is until you have one. Or you see a
Look,
child, or you see a small child grow up in front of you and start to
yep, yep.
absorb everything that you say and do. And you
But see,
see
that's
this,
that's what's deep about what you're saying.
but you see this sentient life force that has a soul, that has a spirit, that started as an egg and grew into a human being. And the breath of life was breathed into it, and it developed and it grew, and it's learning, and it's growing, and it's becoming a full fledged human being. And when you see this happen in front of you, you see the gift of life. So therefore, this brings me to one point of view that I've had, and I'm pretty sure Duct Tape has this point of view. I want to give my children the best life possible. So that's why I work my ass off and I create these blockbuster movie, crazy ass Michael Bay, Tony Scott,
I
crazy
do.
movie goals, okay? Because I want to do the impossible to create a world so that my children can have the most insane, cool experiences, the stuff that I only dreamed about as a child. So
Look,
I work toward
here's
that.
here's what you're saying in short. There's two reproductive strategies. One, I have a bunch of kids and don't leave shit to them. Or two, I have a couple kids and I assure them and I grow and I raise them myself and I'm there for them and I see what happens. And I'm not saying either one is wrong. I'm not saying either one is right. I'm just saying that if you're an educated person, you should have a different outlook on life. And what my brother was saying, especially when you watch a kid grow up, when you see them learn and acquire knowledge, even when you raise animals, you know, you have a litter of pups, you watch them grow, you see this life cycle, and you see like, wow, man, that I was there from day one to day 5,000, whatever, and you know, this kid or this dog, this puppy, this animal, whenever you participate in the rearing of something, it's a different vibe. You have a completely different outlook. And then that's why so many of our brothers and sisters are scarred because their moms weren't there, their dads weren't there, that kind of stuff. And, you know, so stop using it as an excuse not to be a better person. If you're aware that you have shortcomings or that your parents have shortcomings, you need to work on those. But the bottom line is that, yeah, people do that, especially in other countries. You know, we watch these movies and like in the movie, the fat black woman gets the African guy because he likes big women. That dude got 6 wives already, you motherfucker. you know, I remember my cousin went through that shit in L.A. back in the late '80s. Man, dated this dude from Africa, and she said, "Man, come to find out, he had 3 wives already." That is just a reproductive strategy. The more women you got, the more kids you have, and the better your chance your seeds to get spread around. But the fact of the matter is that these people just say have kids, and I go to a different state or I go to a different country. That shit's real. Um, you know, their fertility is important to them, but they do not care about what comes from it. You know, that kid will grow up and maybe be president one day. That's a Barack Obama joke. But the fact is this: that I think as an educated person that I want to partake in my child growing up. I want to make them better. I want them to share some stuff with them. I want to give them discipline. I want them to have the things that you said, physical things that I didn't have. And I think that's another strategy also is that when you work on stuff, build stuff, create a business, create something, and you want to pass it down to your kid, that's another reproductive strategy where your kid's not starting from zero. You don't want your kid to just like have to invent all of life that you want them to learn from yours and not necessarily go into your
For
business.
example, we never went on family vacations. I had my mother and my father, but they worked
Yeah.
their ass off all the time, and we never went on family vacations because we couldn't afford it. But
Mm.
my dad took us fishing, and I learned about nature. I learned to appreciate the outdoors. But I always would see things on television that I wanted to go and touch myself. I wanted to go to the
Yeah.
pyramids of
Yep.
Egypt. I wanted to go
Yep.
to Japan so bad, and it hurt as a kid. I wanted to go to Japan so bad, and I just told myself I would always go there one day. I wanted to go then. I wanted to go at 10. I wanted to go at 11, 12. I wanted to go then. I told myself, I said, you know what? I'm going to have kids one day. And the kid says to me, Dad, I want to go to Japan. Well, guess what, son? We are going to Japan this summer because I want to blow their fucking minds.
Fucking mind. Yes. Okay.
I want them to like just land on that foreign soil, see all those people that do not look like them, talk like them,
The look on their face.
and the look on their face when they see that, oh, this is where my toys come from. You know what I'm saying? Like shit like that.
Okay, you said some deep shit. Okay, you just said some deep shit. Okay, it's three things, two or three things I want to bring up. First things first, like, I've been with my wife for years, and so I took the kids to SeaWorld one time. I took all the kids to SeaWorld, her kids, me, her, and the reason I did it because something you said, like, there are certain things you hear about on TV, like the family vacation. That was just me and my mom growing up, and my mom took me all over. I went all over. So, but when you take a kid someplace and you see that kid, our youngest touched the dolphin. When she touched that dolphin, like you can see that something just happened that altered her. Like I just touched a dolphin.
It was like an alien. It's like she met an alien.
Yeah, my nigga. And like I got a bunch of kids I take care of. I took my other kids other places, amusement parks. You know, whenever you take them, and the first time they see something they didn't expect, or something that they only saw on television, or experience they only had on television, you know, it changes. Like, oh my God, that's a motherfucker. And other reason is the other reason I want to point this out. It's important to do that kind of shit. It's important to blow your kids' minds because then they look up to you. When you give your kids something, I'm not talking about money and all that shit. I'm saying when you give them an experience. Like, damn, Dad, you taught me something. Or damn, Mom, that shit is so important. Another thing that comes up a lot is a lot of shit that we see on TV, like you said, family vacation. Look, I went with your dad fishing. Your dad took me to the base. Your dad took us all over. But like the family vacation, that's something that you used to see white people do on TV.
Yep.
And so it's not a goal, but it's a real thing. Another, like, so many times you hear people say, I never heard my mom and dad say I love you. I never heard that. Love is an action. And so, you know, my mom told me, but she also showed me. My dad told me he loved me, but he wasn't there. You know, my dad left when I was 2. I moved around the corner. That's why I got a sister around the corner. You know what I'm saying? So love is an action. If a motherfucker don't act like they love you, I think nowadays with this whole Oprah mentality where you want to hear that shit. I'm like, it's cool to hear it, but I think I'd rather see it.
But see,
you know,
okay, hold on. Let me stop you. My father was a manly man from another time, and he wasn't he wasn't emotional. He was a very disciplined man, and he wasn't very.
It wasn't a cry or
no. But see, he was all about teaching you and giving you subtle lessons.
Period.
And so what he wanted to do is he wanted to give you knowledge and wisdom. And so the things that he imparted upon us are still with us to this day. And dude, when we would go to the base and we would like go to the air shows and we see like F-14 Tomcats, man, I remember the first time I saw the stealth fighter plane, you know what I'm saying, or the SR-71, you know, and I'm like, that's that shit from G.I. Joe right there. Like, my fucking mind was blown, you know, and you went to some of those air shows with us, man. And
that's my point. That experience. Yes, and people don't get that. But here's my point. A lot of the things you see on TV, I'm not saying they're good or bad, but I'm saying it's important to get maybe therapy or to get stuff off your chest. But that whole idea, because my mom and dad didn't say they love me, they don't. That's bullshit. If that motherfucker feeds you every day, takes you someplace, teaches you shit, make sure you have clothes on your body, you know, I'm like, that's love. Love is an activity. Love is physical. You know, love is emotional also. But if a motherfucker don't act like I said, I love my father, but he was a shitty father. You know what I'm saying? It's just what it is. But, you know, he always called me drunk. Hey, I love you. And I'm like, damn. Or you would ask him, well, then, you know, why don't you come around more? Well, I left you with your mom because she's a better parent than me. Nigga, you didn't know that shit for sure. That's that classic bullshit excuse that these sorry ass fathers give. So watch that shit. I'm saying that my mom said it, but she also acted like it. My mom defended me, protected me, and made me who I am. So I try to be a good person. I've done some fucked up.
But let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Did you ever take for granted the fact that you had a roof over your head?
Okay, no, we didn't. I didn't. I know you didn't. No, look, we knew motherfuckers that had fucked up lives.
Yep.
You had friends,
All you had to
and
do
we had
was
friends.
go walk outside, and you would see motherfuckers that had it way worse than you. On our block, on the block, bro. It was motherfuckers who had it
Yes,
fucked up on the blocks
it's
around
motherfuckers that had
us.
shitty parents. Like, hey, like you remember them people that had parents that would kick it, like your mom, like mom and dad wasn't home for weeks, like but they still would go to school. Like, how you make, like man, sit down,
Yes, a
nigga,
latchkey kid, but
or
like a latchkey kid that like was on an extended, like fucking latch.
leave, nigga, or
Yes.
like okay. Here's the thing about our neighborhood: we had poor white and poor black people. Like it was the white people that would ask you to borrow water. It wasn't like, hey, my mom said we need a couple buckets of water. I'm like, what'd you say,
But see, okay,
Jamie?
but see, thing is though, in our neighborhood, there were working class people, and there were
Yeah,
legit poor motherfuckers.
yeah.
And I remember,
Even though they had a house.
I'm
Yeah,
not naming anybody. We're not gonna do that. But I remember there were kids that would come to school smelling like pee. There were kids that like they would come to school and like they haven't eaten no breakfast. They were dependent on that school lunch and that and breakfast and stuff and all this stuff that that you would get from school. Like that was their lifeline. As a matter of fact, like they were happy to come to school just to have these amenities that like you and
yes,
I
yeah.
might have scoffed at. Like, man, I don't want no chocolate milk today. Like that kid be like, shit, I drink. Give me that. I
Give me
drink
that
that shit.
motherfucker.
Yeah.
I think where we are in society, society lays this guilt trip on you. If you can't provide this for your kid, you're not a good parent. But back in the day, it wasn't that. As a parent, what you went through, your kid went through, but you also try to make sure that your kid learned from it and that, hey, this is difficult, but there's something on the other side. I remember Chappelle talked about what his dad said. Dad, we're poor. I said, no, son, we're not poor. We're broke. Poor is a state of mind.
Oh yeah.
And but that's how we grew up. We grew up with people like that, and they may have been down for a while, but they would eventually get out of it. And I think that's also very important. Why it's important to have a house. Like I
Oh,
remember
preach.
a good friend of mine, you know, and he was talking about because when he was in education, there was a young boy always had troubles in school. From second grade, third grade, fourth grade, always had trouble. Well, in fourth grade, his mom got a Habitat for Humanity house, her house. They gave it to her. She pays whatever, and she owns that house. He went from being a problem child to straight A student, and so the mom was always used to getting calls about him. So when they called, and all of a sudden she was like, "Oh damn, what'd you call about?" And they say, "Oh, he's excellent. He participates. He's this." She's like, "Do you mean Leroy Jenkins?" She's like, "Yeah, your son is amazing." Having your own place, and that's something that we grew up with. The people on our block all had their own house. We didn't really live in an apartment area or a project area.
Yeah.
So I think having your own home, legitimately having it, whether you owned it or not, but owning it was a big part of our arrogance or our desire to excel. And that's one of the things I think that coming
But
from that
but that
situation, we
wasn't
want to provide a
arrogance
house
though.
for our
That wasn't
children.
arrogance, man.
Oh no. See, arrogance ain't a bad thing to me. I'm telling you that I feel this way. That I want to make sure my kids have a house. Even right now, me and my wife talking about having a kid. Like, look, one of the things my parents did was like, my mom and dad said, my son will not be born in an apartment. So the house that I grew up in, the house that they bought that and moved in. When they left Emmanuel, that's when they moved into that house, literally, and that was their plan. And I just think that's important. And this is all about fertility. I know y'all don't get it, but this is how
All of
you
it. It's
behave.
all related because
Yes,
this is what happens. These are the things that lead to children. And
yeah.
this is the world that children occupy because see here's the thing everybody wants to talk about fertility and can you make a baby and are you good and like
But
all
can
this
you
shit.
raise a man? Can you raise a
Can you
woman? Can you make a
raise
fucking adult,
humans
my nigga?
into civilized people?
Here's the thing. Here's what we're seeing right now. And I pissed somebody off at work. So if she hears this, oh well, two tears in a bucket. You know who you are. Check this out. So whenever you got these older people who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s talking about socialism and talking about all this government, talking about gun control, you ever notice those people are the shitty parents? Those are people that know their kids are crap. Kids are 27, 34 years old, still living at home. Kids, they're paying their kids rent someplace else just to get them out the house. You know why? Because you fucked up as a parent, so you know your kids ain't shit. So you want to make the world easier for them. You want to give them a force field or give them a head start, whatever. That's cool, but that's because you suck as a parent. Don't fuck up my life because you suck as a parent, bitch. You understand that? You sorry motherfucker. You know you ain't shit. So Like, I bought my kid everything, Jordans, cars, gave him everything, and didn't prepare him for life. So instead of just saying they're an adult, because they're not, you know what? We need more laws. You need a guaranteed income because this, or because, like, look, I get it. I'm black. I do believe in a minimum wage because I know if left up to white folks, y'all wouldn't pay us shit.
Okay.
But we don't need to sit
Okay.
here.
Come on back. So listen, I want to go. Yeah, before you go, just tone it down, man, because you gonna start talking about socialism and all this bullshit. Just bring it back, nigga.
I wasn't going
Hold
there
on,
yet.
hold on. I want to go down this side road because in the past there were fertility festivals. The
Oh, yeah.
maypole. The maypole is
Oh,
another
yeah.
way of saying the dick festival. The
Yeah.
maypole. Okay, so in Japan they carve big ass penises and carry them down the street singing songs. Yeah.
Hey, what's the biggest penis in America? What's the biggest penis in America?
Oh, that's the
The
Washington
Washington
Monument.
Monument. See, monument. A bliss is a
Penis.
is a is a penis. Um, Look, we know about all the pyramids and obelisk in Egypt, but where the most obelisk at?
But
In Nubia. They're
yeah.
further south.
So here's the
They,
thing.
they
So
got one
if
that.
you look at all these cultures, these ancient cultures, there are rites of passage that young people went through. And
Yes.
it took them from being a child into adulthood. These don't exist anymore collectively. And so what happens
That's
is young
that's on
people,
purpose. That's on purpose.
yes, but young people end up making these things themselves or creating these things themselves. But in many cultures, there were all these fertility festivals where people just come together and just bang. You know what I'm saying? Like it was all about just getting together to just bang. And it sounds
Mm.
hedonistic in a way, but it has a purpose. It's to teach people about their sexual organs and sexuality,
Right.
but also
Right.
how it relates to the continuation of your family tree or your lineage or your tribe. And there's an
Look,
importance in that
nowadays,
because it's carrying traditions onward. It's carrying
look,
on things
nowadays,
that are valuable to keeping a society stable.
look, we act a fool in college. You get anything you do in college is like you get a pass. Look, I'll be the first to tell you, like, look, man, shit, I thought I must have been the African fertility god. I had three broads telling me they was pregnant. Like, so, like, when you hear a motherfucker say something like, I prayed some babies away, I'm like, y'all never prayed a baby away? You never be like, please, God,
Oh
don't let this be
man,
pregnant.
what? There's been plenty, bro. No, 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 no. I'll share this. I'll share this. There's been plenty times where I'm like, God, please, please don't let her be pregnant because I
Father.
need you to make it not happen because
Uh,
there are many things that I have to do and I can't do
I will
them
go to
right
church.
now. And
I will pay tithe.
I will be the best, most obedient soul that you know.
Christian, Muslim, Buddha,
Please
Buddhism.
do me this solid and make this happen for me, my dude. Holla. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo,
Look, I remember the prayer I even said one time. Like, hey man, there's one chick. She's a stripper saying she's pregnant. We only messed around one time. And see, here's something else that nobody wants to talk about. Back in the late '80s, '90s, up to '96, condom technology is not what it is now. Like right now, you can't break a condom. You could shoot a condom with a gun, and it might not. That bullet might bounce off. Back in the day, if you put your dick in too quick, the condom would bust. You knew how to break the condom on purpose, just so you get some good pussy without the condom. It's a whole different vibe back then. And so I had like three women, and I'm like, hey, look, God, I don't ask for much, but these two right here, I hate these motherfuckers. Don't let them be pregnant. The other one, I don't want her to
oh,
be pregnant,
oh,
but
and then listen. If you fucking somebody and you got a condom on, and it's the first time you have sex in one night, the second time, if they say to you, you ain't gotta wear it, get out, get the fuck
oh,
out,
dude.
run, because that motherfucker, listen, that person's trying to give you either some diseases or a baby or a
Oh,
situation or all of the
I
above.
like, hey, it's so bad now. Like, fast forward to the mid to 2010, 2017. Women, the shit that we used to say in high school to get bronze to fuck you without a rubber, bitches say it to you. Do I look like I got something? Don't worry, you can just pull out. The things that niggas used to say, oh, just put the head in. I'm like, I'm supposed to do what? What? Women say that shit to a nigga now. I'm like, what has happened to the world? Like we have to negotiate to get pussy without rubber. Now broads just be offering this shit like, hey, don't worry, just don't come at me. I'm like, but if the pussy's good, I might not have a choice. Like you're telling me your pussy's bad. So it's just funny how things. I don't know if they progressed or got worse or got better or whatever. But the shit that we used to like talk about, joke about, these niggas do every day. Like, yeah, it's a trip.
It's become standardized.
Yeah, and I think it's because we become desensitized so much. Some of it is internet porn. Some of it is the fact that we don't communicate. Like, when you see these people now can't even talk in public, but they can talk online. If they're in a chat room or they're talking on a FaceTime, they can talk. But if when you sit there with them, they have nothing to say. They'll just bury their face in the phone. That's how fucking inept these
So
motherfuckers are.
young girls having babies at 13 and 14. This is I'm gonna go time traveler with this shit for a second. These girls, when you go back in time, it was normal. But because we have progressed as a civilization and have
Yes,
become more educated and more sophisticated, it is shunned now because you want that young girl to have greater opportunities
a
and not
life. You want
have
to
the
flourish.
burden of parenthood so early in their lives and be robbed of freedom.
Hold it. You're missing something. You don't want her to be taken advantage of. You don't rape. You don't want somebody to take advantage of her or him. And that's what don't leave out the obvious. It's fucking wrong. And the whole idea when people love to say something's legal does not mean right or moral.
That's right.
It was legal to marry a 13 or 14-year-old in some Muslim countries or some old country. It was legal. So slavery was legal. So the whole idea of something being legal, you still know right from wrong. And having sex with a 13-year-old is not right, male or female. So stop that shit. Cut that shit the fuck out. A lot of guys, they'll brag about their first sexual experience being about an older woman. But the fact of the matter, if the shoe was on the other foot, we'd be shunning. If it was a guy and a girl, we'd be shunning them. But if it's a guy and a woman, all of a sudden, like, yeah, I was 13, she was 26. What kind of shit is that? And this shit happens a lot. And some guys brag about it, but some guys don't get over the shit. Some guys are actually fucked up in the head. You just don't realize it until they sit down and tell you some shit. You're like, God damn, nigga. Like, why the fuck you telling me? Shit, I'm just here to have drinks, motherfucker. Or I've dated a lot of women, and me and Roscoe actually toyed about writing a couple scripts about this shit. But I know a lot of women. I know two women. Excuse me. I know two women that when they came out the closet to their father, like, "Hey, Dad, I'm gay. This, and this." Their dads raped them to fix them. That's some fucked up shit. How the
Mm,
fuck do you get over that?
mm.
Because you decide to like, hey, bare your soul to somebody who's supposed to protect you, provide for you, and give you this future. Instead, he's so mad that you're a lesbian, he rapes you because he thinks it's going to fix you.
No, that's like, you know what that is?
Uh,
That is the same as a person saying, "Look at this, I got a cut," and the mother goes to the kitchen and gets a butcher knife and just puts a
and cut
big
the whole
ass
finger off.
gash in the arm. Like, now it's better. No, it's not. Now I'm bleeding all over the
No.
place.
It's like white folks when they say, well, when you had slavery, you had 100% employment. There was no unemployment under slavery. Fuck you, you Caucasian bastard. You're a piece of shit. Fuck you.
Crack
Um,
ass, cracker.
the whole but the whole idea that sexuality is this simple or that simple, it's not. We get it. Fertility is not that simple. Yeah, I get it. You want to be the hardest part about being a man. See, a woman will leave a man if he sucks in bed, but a man won't leave a woman if she sucks in bed. So, how does
No,
that work?
I don't know. I don't know. I know a
It's
lot of
changing.
people. I know a lot of people have moved on from abroad that is horrible at giving head.
Okay, but that's another thing. How many people? Okay, this is the Facebook generation. You see these memes with no head, with that killer relationship. Like, look, motherfucker. If first things first, if you treat your broad right, show her the right shit, and she's gonna want to please you in every way possible. Or that ain't the right person for you. Like, nobody wants to admit that shit. You picking the wrong motherfucker. And a lot
Yeah,
of people do that shit. They get
yeah.
married. Or here's another thing that I've seen a lot. Uh, Men don't understand postpartum depression, or a lot of niggas be nerds and When they get a woman, then they start looking good. I'll give an example. Like I know a dude who was a fucking dork his whole life. He gets a woman. Now all of a sudden he looks good, right?
But you know what's
She
going on?
make,
She is doing that.
yeah, that's my point.
She's
So
dressing him now.
she's
She's
dressing him. She's picking
yeah.
out the clothes and the colors. So here's what happens. He cheats on her. He gets to work. All of a sudden he's getting attention from other women that normally he wouldn't get. Not recognizing it's because one, I'm
Because
happy and I'm
she
in a
did
happy
the
fulfilled relationship.
groundwork. She
Yeah,
basically
because she did the
laid the
groundwork. Yeah.
groundwork for another
Yes,
broad to
yeah.
come along and steal
But
everything she's
but
worked
hold it.
towards.
But hold it. You left out one part. You left out the other part. The guy's been a dork his whole life. He ain't used to getting that pussy attention. So, see, a cool motherfucker that was getting pussy his whole life and got married. He's like, I can turn it down. I'll smile and laugh. Like I flirted with the bitch, but I'm going home. I got something better at home. But a nigga that ain't used to that shit, this is his first time ever experiencing that. Here's another situation that now I brought up: the postpartum depression. So you got two lame motherfuckers. The dude is a lame and the chick is a lame, right? And they get married, so everything's cool. They have a kid. And all of a sudden, she's having postpartum depression. So she's like, "Fuck it, I'm not pretty anymore. I can't stand. I don't want to be around you. I don't care if you cheat on me." Now she's saying this because she's depressed. She doesn't really feel this way. But you, as a lame nigga, is tired of her mess. I'm gonna go fuck somebody else. Not recognizing like, okay, she just gave you a son. She just gave you a daughter. She just gave you the most precious thing there is. And this is how you reward her by running off and fucking somebody else. When you should be like, okay, babe, let's work this out. Let's get through this. I can see you going through some shit. I know how you was before the pregnancy, and I see how you are now. It's obviously something going on. Let's sit down and read a book and figure this shit out. But a nigga can't do that shit because he he's taking it at face value. Like, you know what?
Because he's talking to some idiot who don't know shit from apple butter, and he's getting advice from a fucking another idiot.
Homeboy and bitch. Yeah, and that's it. When we say idiot, it could be a male, it could be a female. So what we're saying is these things. Look, this whole fertility shit is some real shit. You know, don't enter into the motherfucker unless you're ready.
Oh no! Let's listen. Fertility can cause infidelity. Yeah, infidelity
Period.
is often caused by fertility because, for example, if the husband is not blasting that box properly, well, let me tell you, oh Mary Lou, she gonna go look for somebody, to go ahead and make it happen. So the problem is that you wind up creating situations where other children are born out of lust. And then at some point down the line, you got to explain to this little person why they exist, how they got here. And if it's a black kid, at some point before that kid becomes 11, 12, 13, that kid's going to look at the mom. That kid's going to look at the dad. It's going to look around at itself and its environment and be like, you know what? My parents are just fucking. That's why I'm here. Kids are not stupid. They're not stupid at all.
What nobody wants to admit is that I get it. You just having sex. You weren't trying to be a parent. Cool. We respect that. It's just the fact that motherfuckers act like every woman that has a kid is a mom, is this great mother. Every nigga that has a child is this great father. No. Some people had to become that shit. And some people never get it. So stop acting like this. You just did this act of nature made you greater than what you are. A lot of y'all whores, and I'm talking about the men too. A lot of y'all ain't shit. So stop acting like that's my baby mother. Like, yeah, bitch ain't shit. Nigga, you ain't shit. So stop that shit. Cut it out. You're lying.
But yeah, see, that's the problem though. These shitty people keep having kids. And there's a
Yes.
50-50 chance that kid is gonna be a decent person.
Yeah.
You see? So now we're talking about pedigree. That's a problem.
It always comes into play. You can see the best of life and still turn out shitty. You can see the worst of life and turn out great. But the fact of the matter is that as a parent, you should want to raise that kid and guide them a certain way. It's harder and harder to guide kids now. It really is because they see so much shit, whether it's television, whether it's internet, whether it's other parents. Back in the day, and like I said again, in our neighborhood, all the parents were on the same page. Get your ass home. I'll call your mother. Blah blah blah. Nowadays, you got parents partying with the kids. You got parents fucking kids.
Yeah. See
Kids
that?
weak
All
and
that.
shit.
I ain't your friend. I ain't your fucking friend.
No, no. When you turn 25, We'll have a
Mm-hmm.
drink and laugh about the good old days and the old times and say some shit like that. But like I
You
said,
but see,
the
as
I
my child, you got to earn that.
yeah, you have crossed the burning sands. You're coming into the fraternity or sisterhood of adulthood. And when you hit that mark, like, hey, it ain't what you thought it was. Like, nah, pop, and you go from there. Like you give each other's dap, smoke a cigar, and laugh about some shit. Like, man, you made it through it though. I'm proud of you. You made it through a difficult situation. Some people have trouble just being adults. They have adulthood schizophrenia. Mental issues. It's just because of the pressure of adulthood. It's multiplied even more when you decide to bring a child into the world, and then you want to do a good job, and you don't have the ability to do a good job. You got a lot of parents
So
competing with
this
each
the
other.
hold on, stop right there. Stop right there because people got their own baggage they got to work out. You really need to
Period.
work out your own shit before you attempt to make a child. Because you really not bringing a fucking thing to the table if you got all these issues that you can't even work out and sort yourself.
How about you work out your baggage before you take on a man or a woman?
Yeah,
How about two half-ass people can't make a whole relationship?
that's
I
right.
say that shit and people think I'm being a dick, and I'm like, I am being a dick, but I don't give a fuck. It's the fact that you're fucked up, you're scarred, and she's scarred, and we all got scars. We all got mental and physical scars, and hopefully the person you're with will help you heal those. But that ain't the case sometimes. Sometimes that nigga just trying to fuck, and that nigga will say what it takes to fuck, and then all of a sudden when they fuck, they don't call you back. Like, oh fuck. So now what? I might be pregnant. Might be. Good damn well what you did. So now you can't stand looking at that kid. I remember the deepest shit my mom told me is that when they say till death do you part, they don't mean that you're gonna be married to this husband or wife forever. Nah, they mean that you're gonna have a kid that looks like a motherfucker you can't stand, or you gonna have a kid that looks like that acts like a motherfucker that treated you wrong. So sometimes you see your behavior in the children, and they're like, damn, I can't stand my mate. So that's why it's hard for people to even get over this shit. Like you got men that can't get over the damage the woman did. You got women that can't get over the damage the male did. Suppose the nigga raped her, and that kid is a product of a rape. Now that child is a constant reminder of one of the worst things in the world, but you still, as a mother, will raise them and do a good job. But then when the kid gets 13 or 14, they say some fucked up shit to you, and then it feels like you've been raped again, verbally, by the motherfucker that you birthed. It can happen. This is, look, fertility is a responsibility. It's not a fucking thing that you wield like a toy. I get it. I like fucking. We like sex. But don't act like that shit can't catch up to you, my nigga. Don't act like that shit doesn't have fucking ramifications reverberate throughout society, because that's where we are right now. We are seeing the children of crackheads. We're seeing the children of meth heads. We're seeing these children who are fucking up society right now. You got women in the face, all because she does abortion. What kind of shit is that? Fertility will cause you to recognize your own mortality, and that's what this shit is. So that's. I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro. I wasn't trying to talk over you. I'm sorry.
Sexual energy can be used as a springboard for spiritual growth and evolution, but it
Period.
takes a lot of searching to figure this out. And sometimes it takes a person to live their entire life before they figure this out. And it's a very, very difficult for a lot of people to separate sex from
From love.
lovemaking from spiritual growth and knowing where the dividing lines are. But as you mature, you
But
start to see the
hey, but hold
difference
on.
between all these things.
You saying some deep shit. In many of the old cultures, in many of the older religions, sexuality was a big part of the spirituality. So they weren't separate. So you didn't have this shunning. You didn't have people. You grew spiritually and sexually at the same time. So it came to a culmination. But now here's what happens: you're growing spiritually, but you're not growing sexually. Then you have sex, and all of a sudden you lose your mind, and your sexuality passes up your spirituality. And that's because okay, I've been holding back, holding back, holding back. I've been this pious motherfucker thinking that like no, sex is a big part of the Bible. Sex is all throughout the Bible. You're supposed to be having sex. You're supposed to. But I remember the deepest thing when my pastor said to me growing up. I remember he said when it says that your loins will burn. It says you'll burn. He said you don't mean it doesn't mean you'll burn in hell. It means your loins will burn. It means you'll lust for somebody. That's why you want to settle down, find the right woman and man, and get married so you can meet those needs, and you ain't walking around society with a full loaded clip. Shoot at anything that pays attention to you. What people don't get is that you gotta, if you don't grow sexually and spiritually together, you're gonna fuck around and you won't be able to control yourself when these situations arise. That's all it is to it. Nobody wants to admit that shit. Nobody wants to admit that I'm in church and they praise it and I'm looking at this ass shake in front of me and the pew in front of me and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get on that. So no. But
So
if
this
but if you
brings
were
me to the oath that many people take in front of God when they get married.
mm,
And if you are truly a spiritual person, you will honor that oath and you will not break that oath. And you understand that if you feel like you have to break that oath, you need to break that marriage off and finish it because you cannot follow through with the commitment that you have made. So, what we're talking about now is spiritual resolve. Baby, you got to understand that is the rarest of air. Say hallelujah if you know what I'm saying, because those people out there who have spiritual resolve, this what I'm saying is resonate with them because spiritual resolve is tied to love, is tied to sex, it is tied to desire, it is tied to things that you want more than anything. It's tied to money also. You see, spiritual resolve is related to discipline. It's that thing where you get some money, and if you don't know better, it'll burn a hole in your pocket. Well, baby, sexual energy is the same. Sexual
will burn a
energy
hole in
is
your pocket.
just like money. You can
Look,
spin it.
hold on,
Wait,
let me
hold
ask you
on,
a
brother. I'm
question.
not done. You can spin it, spin it, spin it, spin it, and then you got nothing. You can't make moves. You don't have a vehicle. You don't have a vessel to propel yourself because you spent all of your energy, all of your money. And you've been sewing and skeeting and shooting up the club and you have nothing to show for it.
To
You have
show for it,
you have
period.
no countenance. You have no light beneath your black skin and your white skin. Your skin doesn't shine. Your skin sags. You have no
No
sparkle
glisten.
in
Ain't got no
your
glisten.
eyes
No.
because there's no radiance emanating from you because you've been drained. You're like this person who's heating a house and all the doors and windows are open and all that energy is just pouring out of that house through all the windows and doors. You have to shut those doors. You have to close those blinds and you have to heat that house to it's a sustainable warm atmosphere for comfort. I'm talking about resolve and sexual energy as it relates to everything in life that you can use metaphorically. And
Look, if you
fertility
don't
is a
understand
big
what we're
part of
saying,
that.
if you don't understand, like say you're dating a man or woman, or you liking somebody, and you miss them. But if you beat your dick and you don't miss them anymore, then that was a sexual frustration. But if you beat your dick, or if you have an experience and you still digging that person, that's genuine. It shouldn't matter if it's sex involved. You're missing that energy. You're missing that person's presence, and you don't. People don't want to understand that. Like when you really like somebody, you don't even want the conversation to end. You'll ask dumbass questions like, did you go to the bathroom today? You just want to talk with that person. You just want to be around that person. So hopefully they feel the same way about you. Now, if they don't, and you recognize they don't, you can't make nobody love you. Hell, God gave us free will. He can't even make us love Him. So you can't make somebody see you
I'm
for
I'm
being
also
special
saying
or
I'm
have a
also
value.
saying a bit more than that. I'm also saying that
Hmm.
you are
I know.
more than the flesh. You are more than
Yes, you're a
flesh.
spirit.
You are a spiritual being and you have a soul. And you have to learn to temper that. You have to learn to breathe and control yourself. Thoughts and emotions are like tsunamis crashing down over your conscious mind. And you
Look,
have to
you've heard us
let
say this before.
those hold on, brother. You have to let those waves peter out and melt into a calm current because
Control it. Yeah.
you have to learn control. And that resolve is the throttle that allows you to control the rate at which your thoughts accelerate. The way, see, here's the thing. Your emotions, believe it or not, are generated by the organs in your body. This is taught by
Mm.
Chinese medicine. I have been practicing martial arts my whole life, and I have been meditating for more than 25 years. And I can tell you that it is true. Your emotions are created by your organs. Because in Japan, they talk about people who die from heartache, from a broken heart.
Hmm.
And when they
Yes.
do an autopsy on these people, their heart is purple. Or you have the angry person who they cook their own liver. It looks like it was been microwaved and it's purple. All that anger has been in that organ. You see, I am bringing this up to say that if you take care of your body, if you
Your
be,
emotions will
if
follow.
yes, but if you are conscious in and being mindful in tending your mental garden, when your sexual energy rages up, you will spend that money carefully. That's what
Look,
I'm saying.
what I was saying earlier is you are a soul. You have a body. You've heard us say this before. What we're trying to tell you is that your soul is who you are. This is your connection to the greater, and you don't want that soul to be tainted or tarnished. Your body responds to that. It's not that your body responds to your soul. It's the other way around. Your soul controls the body, and your body is a response to it. When you let your body take over, that's that carnal knowledge. When you give your body power over your soul, you're going to end up fucking some shit up. But when your soul controls your body, you have discernment and you recognize behavior or emotion. That shit doesn't run you. And that's why we're talking earlier about even abuse and things like that, because what happened is somebody fucked up their body, now it tainted their soul, and sometimes it takes years for you to get over that shit, to have an understanding or come to terms with this different shit. That's why when somebody hurts the body, it can fuck the soul up for a long time until you separate the two and recognize, okay, this shit happened to me, I'm not it, I'm bigger than it. Then you control it and fix it. um Look, what we're trying to tell you is fertility can be lethal if you let it, but that's because you need to practice. Your soul should control where your body goes, not your body controls where your soul goes. And until you get that, until you practice that, until you understand it, you're gonna make bad decisions. You're gonna have kids with people you hate. Your kids are gonna hate you,
But
and you're
here's
probably
the
gonna
thing,
hate your
though.
kids.
But here's the thing. I also want to say that don't be puritanical. Enjoy yourself. Have sex.
Mm-hmm.
Have good
Mm-hmm.
sex. But good
Yes.
sex is something that feeds you. Good sex is something that continues long after you put your clothes back on and you are
Yes.
floating on a cloud at work and you're beaming with light and people will come in and be like, "Did you get
Look,
a haircut?" You're like, "Oh, well, I got some trim." You
I got
know
some
what I'm
trim.
saying?
I better look. What nobody wants to talk about is like even when you hear people talk about foreplay. Foreplay is an all day thing.
All
We
day.
got cell phones now. You should be texting your broad or texting your nigga. I don't care if you're sending pictures. Or, hey, look, when you get home, you're gonna get this. Shit, I hope you're ready when you get home because you had a long day at work, but you're gonna have a long day in bed. That kind of shit. Or you should be sending shit like, hey, remember that dress you had? I want you to wear that, baby, when I get home. You ain't gonna have it on for long. It's gonna be on the floor by the side of the bed. But I want to see you in it for 5 minutes.
Listen,
You should.
let me say something real quick. I've had this relationship with a woman. It's been an off and on relationship, and it's very unique. This connection that I've had with this woman, I have not had this with anybody else. When we were together, I could feel her thoughts. I could feel the edge of her thought wave when she was thinking of me. She could be 1,000 miles away in another state, and I could feel the moment that I crossed her mind. What happened was I had reached every spiritual moment in my life brought me to that situation because it was like martial arts training but on a love level, right? And so I had all these paranormal experiences as a boy, and my spiritual awareness started growing very early. Now, the side effect is you get all these crazy things going on. But what's going on the spiritual level is you're growing immensely. So one day you're going to meet a person who is just as strong and aware as you are spiritually. And so when those two bodies of energy start to emanate toward each other, they're sending signals, thought waves, thought forms. So this woman that I met blew me away. I fell in love with her mind because I'd never come across a woman that spoke the way she did, that moved the way she did, that thought the way she did, so that we would get together, and these experiences were sublime. There would be moments where we just wouldn't talk, and we would look toward a sunset, and then we'd leave this like park or whatever, and then we just go and we talk about what we saw. Dude, I'm telling you, man, like the stuff that we experienced was out of this world. And there were moments, man, I'm telling you, man, like I could feel her energy. I could, people, listen, two people in love, that is a very strong bond. It is beyond the physical, it is beyond anything that science can explain. The closest thing that comes to it is quantum entanglement. But when you add desire to that, oh, buddy, when you get butt ass naked with a person like that, man, woo! So, I'm saying this to encourage all of you out there that you can take your sex life beyond the physical into the realm of the transcendental, and you can have some fireworks igniting on the 4th of July, New Year's Eve, birthday, all that beyond. Quasars exploding in your mind, in your body, on the astral plane, all at the same time. Fertility, that's what I'm talking about. Because you real fertile, but on multiple levels. And when you get together like that, it creates love. Because love is what created all of us. And that's how we're here, because we are the love of God. And so what we seek to do is replicate that on the macro level in our own lives. And children are the purest expression of that. Dig what I'm saying?
My brother just told you that you need to exist on the spiritual, physical, and emotional level. And when you do that, you're going to meet the right person. Hopefully they feel the same way. Hopefully they have the same maturity as you, and y'all grow together, and a child is a fruit of that. So that's why this fertility is so important. I hope you dig it. That's all I got to say.
You say what now?
I said that's all I got to say. When you have all three of those, physical, spiritual, and emotional, and then the fruit of that is hopefully a child, you can't help but be successful. You're making a society. You're making the shit better. And like I said, that's it. Nothing else to talk about.
What I
That's
seek
the
to
answer
say,
to all of it.
what I want to say in closing is that you possess, every one of you out there, you possess something very powerful. The ability to create. The ability to create. Some of you may not be able to create life. Fine. But you still possess the ability to create. And you can create a beautiful relationship. You can create beautiful experiences with someone or several people. What I say is, do not take these for granted, because these snapshots are pearls or beads on a string that make up your life experience. Enjoy each and every one of those and make them worthwhile, because before you know it, it's all over and nobody gets out of here alive. So, you gonna make a baby? Cool. But in making that baby, you better throw down like your life depends on it. And go to town. Yeah, because it really does, actually. Your lineage actually depends on it. So don't waste your time. Don't waste somebody else's time. Don't waste your lifetime. That's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla.